The rain hammered against the corrugated roof of the small roadside garage the night everything changed, and Rafael Osei had no idea that the growling silver car limping into his yard would rewrite the rest of his life. He wiped grease from his knuckles, stepped into the downpour, and saw a man in a soaked tailored suit standing beside a broken-down Bentley, cursing under his breath like a man who had never once been told no by the world. Before we go further, if you believe in kindness and second chances, hit like, drop a comment, share this with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to Hope and Wisdom, because stories like this one deserve to be heard. Rafael was 34 years old, and for the last 9 years he had run Osei Auto Repair alone, a cramped garage on the edge of town that most people only found by accident. His father had built the place with his bare hands before a stroke stole his strength, and Rafael had promised him, holding his trembling fingers in a hospital bed, that he would never let the garage close. He kept that promise through years of unpaid bills, through nights sleeping on a cot in the back office because he couldn't afford both rent and his father's medication, through the quiet shame of watching newer, shinier repair shops open up and down the highway while his own sign flickered with a dying bulb. He wasn't bitter, not really. He simply carried a tiredness in his bones that came from working harder than anyone around him and still falling further behind. The man in the suit was Julian Ashworth, a real estate investor whose name appeared often in business magazines Rafael had never read. Julian's Bentley had broken down on a lonely stretch of road during a business trip, and his phone had no signal, and the nearest tow service was 2 hours away. When he finally trudged into Rafael's garage, drenched and furious, he expected to be turned away or overcharged by some small-town mechanic sensing an opportunity. Instead, Rafael simply handed him a towel, put on a pot of coffee, and told him to sit while he took a look under the hood. It took Rafael 4 hours to diagnose a rare electrical fault that 2 dealership mechanics in the city had already failed to find the week before. He worked in silence, sweat mixing with rain, humming an old song his father used to hum, completely unaware that the man watching him from a plastic chair was quietly stunned. Julian had grown up around money his whole life, surrounded by people who did things for recognition, for status, for the next transaction. But Rafael worked like a man who loved what his hands could do, who found dignity in fixing what was broken, expecting nothing beyond a fair price for honest work. When Julian offered to pay him triple the going rate out of gratitude, Rafael refused, quietly explaining that overcharging a stranger in a storm wasn't the kind of mechanic his father raised him to be. That single sentence stayed with Julian long after his car pulled out of the gravel driveway that night. 3 weeks passed, and Rafael assumed the encounter was over, just another strange story to tell if anyone ever asked. But then a black car arrived at the garage, and out stepped Julian Ashworth again, this time with a folder tucked under his arm instead of a broken engine. He explained that he had spent those 3 weeks thinking about the small garage on the edge of nowhere, and about a mechanic who had every reason to take advantage of a desperate rich stranger and chose not to. Julian told Rafael that his company was expanding into vehicle restoration and automotive investment, and he wanted someone with real integrity to help him build it from the ground up, not as an employee, but as a partner. Rafael stood frozen in his own garage, grease still under his fingernails, certain he had misheard. He thought of his father lying in a care facility 2 towns over, of the loan payment stacked on his desk, of nights he had gone without dinner so the shop lights could stay on. He thought about how many times he had almost given up, how many times he had told himself that hard work alone wasn't enough to change a life like his. And here was a stranger, a millionaire he had helped purely because it was the right thing to do, offering him a door he never knew existed. He said yes with a voice that cracked halfway through the word. Within a year, Osei Auto Repair transformed into a respected restoration workshop backed by real investment, employing 5 local mechanics who once struggled just as Rafael had. He moved his father into a better care home, sat beside his bed every evening, and quietly thanked him for a lesson learned long before any of this began, that honesty was never wasted, even when no one was watching. Julian became more than a business partner, he became the kind of friend Rafael never expected wealth to bring him, and together they built something neither could have built alone. If this story touched your heart even a little, please take a moment to like this video, leave a comment about what part moved you most, and share it with someone who might need a little hope today. And before we close this chapter, if you feel this story deserves to be remembered, type hope and wisdom in the comments below, so we know this message reached you. Rafael often says that the storm that once felt like his worst night became the night his whole life quietly turned toward the light, proving that kindness offered without expectation has a way of returning when you least expect it, transforming not just a broken car, but an entire broken circumstance into something whole again.